Hello, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Amber and I talk about books and poetry as someone who has no expertise in the field other than I am a horrifically sensitive person who loves love. So as I enjoy a glass of orange wine, I wanted to talk about my favorite subject, love, today, because I just finished reading this book, Chamade by Françoise Sagan, and I'm in an interesting part of my life, so reading that coupled with reading Bell Hooks, All About Love, I wanted to share a journal entry and also a discussion, a little rambling about love in general that I feel like some people might relate with. In August, there is this hazy, oppressive heat that seems to turn everything into slow creatures, and even the stupid little fan that I got from the store for cheap is moving slower than normal. And I decided to go for a swim in the ocean, which I do every day, but today was very much trying to cool off. And with the heat, I felt like every time I stared at the dry grass that's out there, and we're in a drought, so it's almost white. I thought my racing thoughts were moving so fast they could set this whole field ablaze. And I was thinking about the character Lucille from La Chamade. And if you haven't read the book, this will spoil the end, just letting you know. And I resonated with Lucille in a lot of ways, in the ways that she loves her freedom and she loves to socialize and enjoy art and sleep in, and she loves pleasure. And she had met someone who offered her the opportunity to be that way and gave her the environment in which she could be herself completely. And his name is Charles, and he loved her so deeply. And she didn't really love him, but he loved her in the way that I would define love. And I define it in the way that I read it in Bell Hooks, and it talked about just the spiritual nourishment of a person. Charles knew what to do to make sure that Lucille was loved and her spirit was nourished. Lucille then meets a man named Antoine, and there's this unbridled passion between them, and so they think they are in love, and begins this affair where he's cheating on his lover and she's cheating on hers, and they have this passionate love affair, and it becomes very volatile and toxic, and he hurts her multiple times. And he also tries to change her. She ends up leaving Charles and lives with him, and there's a situation in the book where she needs a lot of help, and Antoine puts his pride first instead of her health and instead of her well-being. And Charles, even though she literally cheated on him and had left him for this other man, when she called and said she needed help, he immediately helped her. And there was no questions asked, and he said, "All I ask is that you call me after to make sure that you're fine." And that was it. And she started to realize that even though she felt bored with Charles, that he loved her in a way that she had actually never experienced love before. He cared for her so completely and wholly, and he didn't want her to change. The reason he loved her was the reason he knew he would eventually lose her, and he was okay with that. She was so free-spirited and just wanted to experience life in the world, and he knew that eventually she would leave, but he loved that about her, and he didn't want that to change. But Antoine tried to change her. And when she eventually went back to Charles, and then they got married, and she was much happier, and she realized that she did love Charles. And I think that kind of comes with growing up, because I realized that I ended up marrying an Antoine and not a Charles, and I thought how fortunate it was that she actually had the choice. I was thinking, why do we want earth-shattering passion so badly, even though sometimes it can hurt us. Is that reassurance better through that intensity? It's like throwing yourself on a burning pyre so that you'll never be cold. I think about how often we assign tropes or storylines to a person or our romantic situations, almost as if there's some pre-written fable that we can align ourselves with. Like if we've seen it play out before and we have those similarities, then we know that it's almost like we can have some control over the future. I think about the co-stars, or the writer and the tortured reader, the right person, wrong time that eventually becomes the right time. All these stories and these tropes and these romantic plot lines that we see all the time and we try to emulate. I mean, my marriage, we were duet dance partners on tour, and we fell in love on tour. Our love story, how we met and how we fell in love, is beautiful. But the relationship was not. Like, what about two people with normal lives who commit to loving one another? What about the person who writes poetry and cries at every romantic movie with, I don't know, someone who works in farming, okay? Who doesn't really read all that much, but they buy their partner all the special editions of books they know they love, and they ask them about what they're reading. And the other helps them build things or asks if they need help. They're just spiritually nourishing one another. There's nothing fantastical about their love story other than it lasts. It's steady. And after having painful passion, I want steady. How many times have our examples of love led us astray? Seeing how someone or our relationship resembles something from media or fiction, we're just like, insert whatever here. Again, it's like we can see how it will turn out, and if we replicate it close enough, we'll be the same. Ross and Rachel worked out in the end, and we're just like them. But I look at people like my aunt and uncle that I live with. A steady, assuring love. When my uncle told my aunt that he loved her, she was just quiet and she said, "I'm gonna need some time." And he was so secure that he was like, "I know," because he knew her. He knew that that's how she is. And he was okay with that. And they've been married for so long. And I hear them around the farm, and it's so beautiful. It's a love that you have to observe in silence, holding your breath in order to catch it. And I want that. Think about, will the poets ever write about things like that? And I guarantee they already have. But they keep it to themselves, afraid to jinx it. And they will drown in their steady love, a smile on their calm faces as they slip beneath the waves.